yeah, let's go. Hey, 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 yo. Come on. Hey, 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 yo. Oh, yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fantastics Inside of Baseball podcast. Another edition, me and Maikel Dombroske here, insideofbaseball.com, wherever you find our podcast, but head on over to insideofbaseball.com, especially for the baseball blog. If you're a non-subscriber, it's free, and you can get a lot of great information, some samples of the email we send out to our subscribers every day, and a lot of tools to help you win your fantasy baseball championship. We're going to talk about contact rate today, and I just want to remind everybody, if you're not familiar with us, we're going to talk about contact rate. We're going to look about guys who've gained and lost on contact rate, but that's not the end all be all. In fact, a lot of times, Scala, what we're looking for when we have a key stat that we're keying on that day is whether that stat is the result of some other changes or whether it's the cause of some other changes, right? We're just trying to put puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a really good point, because if you look at some of the things that are happening with contact rate, increasing your contact rate could conceivably be a negative, and particularly vice versa. Decreasing your contact rate for a hitter that has really just been contact centric and not trying to maximize power is I mean, you're not optimizing your skill set. And you'll see with a couple of names when we get towards the end of this that you've got a couple of guys that are really having great starts to the year where their contact rate has gone from well above average to kind of average, but it's a good thing.
Yep. Yeah. So that's, again, we take a look at a stat, because what the stat does is it gives us a list of players to talk about. And then we start getting into them, and we try to delve into everything.
And you and I call the list over a couple of days and just try to get guys that are interesting for whatever reason. Sure.
Yeah. So we're not necessarily focusing on contact rate. It's just giving us a list of players to talk about today. But before we get into this, first of all, I got to ask you, because you always get these great soccer shirts when we start. So what do we get here today? Well,
all right. In honor of the Papal Conclave, today I've got my 50th anniversary Vatican City jersey.
Yeah.
So it's I have probably 50 soccer jerseys, maybe. I pick up another handful of them a year. So, when I'm not out on meetings or going out to dinner or whatever, this is what I wear. I wear soccer jerseys all the time.
Are those actual soccer jerseys? Are they like replicas of the soccer jerseys, or like when you buy a football?
Most of them are actual jerseys. I actually bought this jersey at the Vatican 3 years ago. So it's really cool. On the back, it's got a picture of the St. Peter's Basilica, like the dome, and it's a neat jersey. This one's a little snug on me because when you buy them in Europe, they don't really have American-sized people over there. Like I'm not the biggest dude in the world, but I mean, this is
on a European scale. You are, right?
This is an extra large, and it is snug. Extra large usually fine for me, but
did a whole show yesterday on the Vatican, on haunted places in the Vatican. Actually,
it is.
I've been honoring the conclave all week, it seems.
Oh yeah, well, it's how often does this happen in our lifetime? 4 or 5 times maybe. So it's a big deal. And I got to tell you, man, we went 3 years ago, and we had the kind of serendipitous good fortune of going on a really rainy day. So, I mean, the Vatican, we came out and the rain had stopped after we had a guided tour and went up the dome climb and went to the Sistine Chapel, which was the most crowded place I've ever been in my life. I will not go back there. It was remarkable, but I had to leave. My wife was sobbing because it was so moving to her, but I had to get out of there. We came out, and the line to get in, I have never seen a line like this in my life. This would be like the line to get on the last spaceship leaving Earth. Like it was miles long. And this is like 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. Like it's a remarkable place. They say that if you spent, I think it was 30 seconds at every exhibit, it would take you 5 years to go through all the stuff they have. So, we can talk about how that came about at a different time, but it is a very remarkable place. If you ever get the chance to visit anybody, I would highly recommend it.
Worthwhile trip then.
Yeah.
And do it in the rain so it keeps the crowds down a little bit.
I mean, you guess. We just I did a really early morning, like 7:30 a.m. tour, and we did the dome climb and everything, which if you're claustrophobic, don't do it. Yeah, I mean, you're walking up a stairway that is as wide as my shoulders. Like you're brushing both walls as you go up this little tiny spiral staircase, like hundreds of stairs. Wow. You got to be in good shape. You got to not be claustrophobic, but you get to the top and you can see all of Rome. It is very cool.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. Good tips. Good travel tips as we go here. At the end of the baseball season, we'll go to Rome. We'll go to the Vatican.
I would go to Rome with you. That would be a blast. We have a
Meet the new Pope.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully they don't elect the 91-year-old Giovanni Ray there, right?
Yeah, maybe
he's a brilliant man, but you don't want to do this again next year.
I posited yesterday in that podcast it would be great if we could have just a popular vote for the Pope. Just see what that campaign would be like.
A worldwide popular vote?
Worldwide popular vote, yeah.
I mean, man.
Just do a year on the campaign trail.
Can you even imagine?
No, I can't even imagine. Can you see the TV ads?
Holy jeez. We'd end up with, I don't even know what we'd end up with. It wouldn't be good. It would not be good.
And I got to ask you, because it's the morning after game 2, Celtics and the Knicks. And I got to ask you, because I'm a radio guy. I've been a radio guy all my life, and I love sports radio up here in Boston. And I'm a Celtics fan because I grew up in the Boston area, and so I'm a Celtics fan. And I lived through Larry Bird and even Russell and all that stuff. So I'm a Celtics fan just because they've been so good, and I grew up. I'm not a big basketball fan. I found myself rooting against the Celtics last night because I just wanted to see what sports radio would be like today on it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, not rooting against them, but I wasn't
really rooting actively for them.
I wasn't all that upset that they lost because I said this is going to be a hell of a day on sports radio tomorrow, and so far it has been. What's going on the Knicks side of this?
Man, I am a huge Knicks fan.
Yeah.
This has been like, we being from Syracuse, love Carmelo, so those years were fun. They were never serious contenders. So the Knicks have not been contenders for 30 years. I was in college. I mean, like this is a long time between being relevant, but the Knicks are always relevant because they're a big market and people talk about them and whatever. So what this is like in Knicks land is we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop because everything has been terrible for so long.
Well, that's the way they've been, huh? They've fumbled the ball quite a bit.
They have, and Dolan. Dolan. It's funny because his ownership tenure has really kind of gone along the Steinbrenner line of spend money foolishly, stupidly, be overbearing, be in the news for other stuff, like all this stuff over the last 30 years of non-competitive, predominantly Knicks teams, but they're in the news.
Dolan was in the Patriots ownership view when Kraft took over.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, Dolan was around in that time. Yeah.
That's family money. So yeah. But they have put this team together, I think, really pretty intelligently, and people have flogged a bunch of the deals. But Leon Rose, man, that dude knows what he is doing. And the funny thing about this Knicks team is that they all know each other so well. They've all played together. Like the prime 3 guys have played together forever, and Towns has fit right in. They never quit, man. They never quit. Yeah. I wouldn't say they're the most gifted team even from a basketball standpoint or a strictly athletic standpoint. They're probably closer from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, but the dog fact, they can beat the Celtics. Dogs can beat the Celtics.
Well, they can when the Celtics miss a whole bunch of threes. And the thing with the Celtics that kills me is at a certain point, like, none of those players are strictly 3-point shooters. Like maybe Peyton Pritchard is, but Brown, Tatum, these guys they're stars, and they don't have to, Tatum especially, does not have to rely on the 3 as much as he does. But this is our identity. We just keep doing it. You're running yourself right into a hole.
And after game 1, it's like, isn't that interesting that they didn't adjust and get out of the 3 game? But at game 2, at the end of game 2, it's like, what the hell, right?
Well, I think they did adjust in the last minute or so. And, having Tatum accelerate, get a full head of steam coming down, like he made that dunk look like a piece of cake before the Brunson free throws. And I thought, well, they're just going to do the same thing again. I don't have faith in the Knicks adjusting because Mitchie guarding him is a 7-footer. Like he's a quick 7-footer, but he's not that quick. Like Tatum's a lot quicker. It's just the help. OG and Bridges, man, like they are so good defensively. They're as good as you can be in today's NBA where they don't allow a ton of contact, which they have in the playoffs a bit more, but still, like the Pistons series for me, that was an 80s, 90s rock 'em, sock 'em, punch people in the face series. And I was like, wow, man, I didn't think the Knicks could handle that physicality, but they have done all right with it.
Yeah, that was old school NBA, that series.
It really was. And I hate saying I miss it because I'm not one of those guys. Like I love watching guys make shots and make great passes and be good offensively. And the Charles Oakleys and Anthony Masons of the world, you ain't getting those. Like you're going to be on the floor bleeding.
It's been entertaining. The NBA has been an entertaining product here in the postseason.
I love playoff NBA, and I really don't care so much for regular season NBA.
Yeah, I get it. It's kind of the same in hockey, although regular season hockey isn't bad, but playoff hockey is unbelievable.
It's playoff hockey.
The NHL playoffs have been incredible.
I think the two sports are very similar.
Yeah.
I just personally, I have a tough time following the puck in hockey. So I know where it should be, but I just can't see it. So it lessens my enjoyment of it.
And I'm not the biggest NBA fan, so I might be biased. But what I was talking about the other night is that hockey players get to that point where they're just playing quicker than any other sport. I mean, it's like there's a certain point in the postseason. I'm not even sure they're collecting checks, as a matter of fact. But
I mean, of all the sports, that's the one, right? Where you're like, these guys just love playing.
They're just playing the game right now, yeah. And we saw it during the break with the Four Nations face-off, and there was nothing on the line, and they were just playing the game.
They're playing as hard as they could. You could tell. It's like watching the Olympics or the World Cup or something, but that's hockey almost all the time. So I get the affinity for it from people. I really do.
All right. I have so much respect for you that I changed my Fangraphs dashboard to do the show today. I have contact rate on my dashboard because of you, but it's a little off to the right, so I only get half of it, so I had to swing it around a little bit to do this show today. Tell me a little bit about contact rate and why that hits home for you, because it has over the years. It hits home for you. It's one of the I go swinging strike, and I was thinking they were reciprocal, but they're not quite. They're pretty close, aren't they?
Well, there's a pretty high correlation, but here's the thing. Like, we talk about the 3 levels of offense and what we're looking for, right? Can you determine which pitches you should swing at?
Right.
When you swing at them, can you make contact?
Mm-hmm.
When you make contact, can you do damage?
Right.
So that's the 3 levels of offense.
Yep.
And the problem with using swinging strike rate is that swinging strike rate sort of like precludes, it combines 1 and 2, because that's basically how many times you swing and miss divided by how many pitches there are.
Right.
So if you want to drill down to those true 3 steps, then you need to use chase rate and then contact rate, because that is how many times you make contact when you swing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to know the true quality level of those 3 things, we need to use it in that form. If you want to do quick and dirty, you look at swing strike rate, which I actually think is more useful for pitchers than for hitters. Yeah. But if you want to combine the two into like, do you swing at good pitches and can you hit them? That's swinging strike rate. But if it's just, can you hit what you swing at? It's contact rate.
All right. Give us context and the scale on contact rate. What's good? What's average? What's bad?
Well, average is probably somewhere in the 75% range. Mm-hmm. If you get into the 80s, you're good. If you get up around 90, you're Luis Arias, you're Tony Gwynn, you're elite. Yep. Sub 70 used to be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But, 10 years or so ago, like basically around when Aaron Judge broke the scale, you can get by with a high 60s contact rate if you're so good at doing damage when you make contact. But really, you kind of need to be in the 70s for your average humans.
Has the game changed? Has the scale changed over the last few years? We've seen a lot of changes since COVID in the game. Has the contact rate, has the game gone more towards contact rate, or has the scale changed a little bit? Do we have any?
I think for young players often, and you and I talk about this a lot, where a lot of guys are afraid of their playing time being suspect if they strike out too much. Yep. So I think you will see some young players with a little bit higher contact rates than they might ultimately land at. And we will actually talk about one particular player who is looks like he's turning into a superstar before our very eyes. He's going back the other direction now that he feels established, in my opinion. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's bumped up a little bit the last 5 years or so, but not appreciably. This is still a power game. And, I was doing a lot of this research yesterday and today, and I'm sitting here thinking like, man, launch angle, a lot of the old guard just poo-poo it and like, oh, this is a stupid, ridiculous stat. Like anytime I see a hitter that I think is underperforming their skill set, I look and they have a low launch angle. So Don't tell me that it's not important. It may not be the driving force when you go to the plate and consciously think about, I got to have a 12-degree launch angle here. But I think it is important in the sense that if you have guys beating, like Christian Yelich this year, negative 1.7-degree launch angle, you want to look at why he's struggling? Yeah, he's pounding the ball into the ground every time. So there are mechanical things, I think, that come into play there where it's the direction that you're looking for things. Like that is a symptom of a problem.
I I talked about the Boston radio market earlier, and the afternoon show that dominates the sports market here has that war on analytics, just an absolute war on analytics. They're just going at it all the time, and they just misunderstand the whole concept of it, because you talk about launch angle, we talk about contact rate, quality of contact, power rates, all the things we talk about. We're not drawing conclusions based on what those numbers are. We're using those numbers as putting puzzle pieces together and trying to figure out what's going to happen going forward. You can't live on data. You can't make all your decisions based on data, but data has some useful information that you can use to make quality decisions, better decisions.
That is 100% accurate. I thought it was a nice double entendre on your part to say a war on that, because that is one of the most frequently flogged.
Well, I hate war. So
war it's a piece of information that attempts to reduce every player to one number.
Right.
So if you come at it from that viewpoint, like this is a flawed metric, but it gives me some idea of where guys fall in categories, then it's useful. If you're going to rate players on war, you're not using it correctly.
At the appropriate consideration, it can be useful.
Like just about everything in life.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, look, man, I mean, we're all trying to understand the game better.
Yep.
We're trying to find opportunities to say, oh, maybe this guy could be better than we think, or maybe this guy's a little overrated. We're trying to find things that might lead us down those paths. And I'm sorry, if you look at most of the teams that have become successful over the last 10 to 15 years, they have embraced this concept. And the teams that don't, the organizations that don't seem to embrace it, have struggled. So you can say whatever you want about it, but clearly there is a correlation between utilizing these data points that are relatively newer and success.
Well, what do you want? Do you want the 300 hitter with the 20% hard contact rate, or do you want the 270 or 260 hitter with the 90% or the 60% hard contact rate?
I mean, this was an example of a couple of years ago. Like, do you want Rhys Hoskins or do you want Luis Arias?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I like Luis Arias a lot. And in the right lineup, he would make sense. But in a vacuum, I wanted Rhys Hoskins.
In the right role, yes. One makes sense over the other, but just player A, player B, you want Rhys Hoskins.
Sure. You want guys that can hit the ball in the park. You want guys that get on base. Luis Arias gets on base, doesn't drive people in.
All right. Brendan Donovan has a 331 batting average, and his expected batting average is 349. What's going on here?
Well, all right. So Brendan Donovan, like I'm going to give you the conclusion first before I go through the data. Brendan Donovan is as valuable as a player without power or speed can be.
There you go. Yep, fair enough.
All right, well, that makes him pretty useless, right? Well, no, I don't think so, because he's always been a good contact hitter, but he's turned into a really good contact hitter. His K rate is under 10% this year. It's just fantastic. 43% hard hit rate, career high. 24% line drive rate, pretty standard for him. His expected data, so you say, all right, he's got no power. Well, not no power. He has 10 doubles.
Yep.
He's got a 331 average and a 468 slugging right now. The expected is 349 and 542. So he's really being shorted on the power end of things. And it's not that this guy has a lot of power, but he does have almost average power. 8% barrel rate, 43% hard hit rate. Max exit velocity is only 109, so a little below average, but the average is 89, and that's pretty close to average. And, you got an 89% contact rate that just keeps climbing every year. The best thing about Brendan Donovan, depending on your league's rules, like he was eligible at first base in 23. Last year, he was eligible at third base. This year, probably second, short, and outfield for you already. Like this multi-positional flexibility with a guy that has an extremely high floor is a valuable player. He's not a star, but he's certainly someone that's going to help you.
Now, it feels like there's a little more pop there. It feels like there's mid-teens pop there, especially this year, because the quality contact rates are up 43% hard hit percentage, barrel rate of 8%, 89 exit velocity, not great, but average enough to get you to 17, 18 home runs, which would be extremely useful with his other contributions.
Yeah, I think that 12 to 15 homers and 10 to 15 steals, probably reasonable to expect. So nothing like crazy, but this tick up in contact ability, a 300 batting average seems almost likely at this point.
Yeah, okay.
And there aren't many guys that can give you that. It may seem like, 300, what's the difference between 300 and 280? It's a lot, actually.
Well, if you did the player A and say a 300 batting average and 15-15, which he seems to be capable of, he's going to get really close, if not beat it. that's a valuable player, especially if he's going to get you 580 at bats or 550 at bats.
Yeah, well, even if he's 310-10 with 80 runs and 80 RBIs, that is an extremely valuable player, particularly when you can plug him in at 2, 3, maybe even 4 positions.
Yeah, and daily transactions, that's so huge.
Absolutely.
By
Super
the way,
useful player, man. He's a very useful player. I like him very much.
And the next guy on the list is kind of the same situation, Maikel Garcia. Very flexible in terms of position, a quality contributor. I love this breakout. Tell me it's for real.
Well, you know what? It's funny. And we talked about this, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, just a couple weeks into the season. And I said, wouldn't it be just like classic for us to be pounding the table, like us as an industry, not just us as you and I, pounding the table on a dude, and he just is super disappointing, plays every day, and scores 84 runs and steals 37 bases. But other than that, he was super disappointing last year.
Yep.
And nobody talks about him this year. He's an afterthought. He might lose his job. They got players coming up. And now all of a sudden, he's exactly what we thought he could be last year, maybe. I think it's awesome. Exit velocity's jumped again to 93.
Yeah.
You watch his launch angles the last few years, 3, 6, 6.5, 10 this year. Hard hit rate, 51.5%. Line drive rate, 25.5%. Sub 20% chase rate. It's just, the contact rate's 87.5%. He's on a 15-35 pace. And call me crazy, but I think the home runs are a little low there. I think he could be a 20 home run guy. He's only 25 this year. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing from Garcia this year. I think that this is what I hoped for my wildest dreams last year, and I thought the ship had kind of sailed this year, but no. And I'm happy that I ended up with him in probably 50% of my leagues this year, because we got down to the end game, and I'm like, the skill set hasn't changed. He was just disappointing for a year.
Plus, you probably drafted him on position flexibility, which I did.
Actually, I didn't. I assumed he was going to be third base.
Yep.
I assumed they were going to put Jonathan India in the outfield. But as it turned out, he's played a lot of second already. He's also played a ton of third. And he's even played a little at short, little in the outfield. And I'm wondering, it depends on your league's eligibility rules. But he could have 4 position eligibility at the end of the year. And if he's a 20-30 guy with an average close to 300 with 4 positional eligibility, he could be the most valuable guy in baseball.
Where have we seen this before? 1,100 major league at bats, 2 years of regular playing time. What usually?
No doubt, man. There is a lot, and I will call that Blasi's law. I think there's a lot to it. I really do. He was a guy that he wasn't expected to be a full-timer in 2023. Came in, didn't do too much. He ran a little, made some contact. So we're looking at the underlying. We're saying, 2024, he's going to be a star. First time, he's definitely going to be a starter, key part of the lineup. And, he was batting 9th by May 15th.
Yep.
This year, he looks. This has been in a very disappointing offense early season, by the way. So if that offense starts kicking into gear, which I think if they bring Jack up at some point and Vinny starts hitting, the pass squatch has been cold to start the season. Witt hasn't been awesome.
Well, the weather's going to warm up. That offense is going to kick in.
The weather's going to warm up. I think you're going to get some of these guys moving to the outfield so they can make spot for, I think it's Caglianone is the pronunciation, but I'm not 100% sure. But he's great. I think he could be major league ready. All of a sudden, you're going to see the counting stats are only 15-15 through about a quarter of the season for Garcia. I think you'll see better than 60.
Some playing time in the outfield away from being called up, I think, because Vinny's blocking him at first base. They got to find another way to get him in the lineup.
Exactly, because they want DH to be available for Perez a lot of the time.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, pull rate's up, fly ball rate is up, launch angle's up. All the symptoms are there. We aren't quite to where I want it to be for him yet, but we're getting close. Nope.
The thing I love is seeing the ground ball rate finally drop away from 50%, because any player with a 50% ground ball rate, unless they're just going for average and steals, you don't want that. That is way too high.
You can feel him assuming the role too of being a little bit more productive player. You can watch it, the way he plays and the way he's hitting, and statistically it's bared out, analytically it's bared out. He's assuming a little bit more a role of a more productive player. He's not just get on base and steal a base type of guy. He's trying to be a little bit more productive than that.
Yeah, 100%. And we talk a lot about stabilization of statistics and when they could become meaningful in terms of correlation toward end of season data. and swing rate is probably the first one that comes into that range, and it's well past that range already. It's usually 50 to 75 plate appearances. We're twice that almost for most guys right now that played full time. Garcia was always a pretty patient guy, but he's taken that even further this year down to a swing rate of about 40%. And you look at the walk rate going from, he's always been a guy that will draw a walk, 7%, 7%. Now this year, 10.5% so far. I like what I'm seeing from his approach and from the results so far.
Yeah, with this power surge, the plate rates have actually gotten better.
Yeah.
His presence at the plate has actually gotten better. He's a quality hitter. It's just a matter of how much power is going to come in at this point.
I thought he was a quality hitter before, but too many ground balls and just not enough usage of the exit velocity, the raw power that he has. He has average plus raw power. So, I'm enthused, man. I'm enthused.
He's a 25-year-old kid. Last year, he's 24. He hit 4 homers the year before and 464 bats. He's probably being told, put the ball on the ground, use your speed, get on base.
Well, and he's at the right age, too, to pack on a little bit of muscle. He's 6'1", 180 is what his listing is. There's room for a little more on that frame.
I'll bet there's a little more right now. And yes, and what do you need? 190, 195 at that point?
For him to hit 20 homers? Yeah.
I mean, he's a big enough guy to get this done. I mean, Kansas City kind of suppresses that a little bit, but
it can. But I think Bobby Witt has shown that you can hit it out there.
Bobby Witt is Bobby Witt. Alec Bohm in Philadelphia, another guy we've been waiting for kind of a breakout for.
Well, I think we always have to, and I know I say this every time we talk about Alec Bohm. He's 28 now, so he's well ensconced in his prime, full-time player for 3+ years now. Really has put up 3 similar years, 2022 through 24, with a little bit more pop each year. Didn't show up in home runs last year, but 44 doubles versus 31 the year before. I think, he's been showing a little more power each year, and this year just hasn't been there. I think we have to reassess what we think Alec Bohm is. At least from what I see around the industry, people think Alec Bohm is going to be a 20 or 30 home run hitter, and that's just not who he is. He's going to be a guy that hits 60 to 70 extra base hits maybe, but it's going to be predominantly doubles, 15 to 20 homers. That's where he's been the last 2 years. That's where I think he'll sit this year, even though he just hit his first one the other day. The thing with Alec Bohm is that he just has not been rewarded at all for quite similar data to what he's put up in the past. 91 mile an hour exit velocity, that's actually up from last year. The max is off a mile an hour, which for max of exit velocity, that's really negligible. Barrel rate of 8%, that's his second best ever. 48% hard hit rate, second best ever. The StatCast data says he should be hitting 273 with a 412 slugging, and he's hitting 35 points and slugging 100 points less than that, and that's after the home run. So, I think he's just been extremely unfortunate to start the year. He's become a little more patient, a couple percent less, both in terms of chase rate and in-zone swing rate. Contact rate has kicked up 2% concurrently with that. He's a really good contact bat with maybe average power. But in that lineup, you would think that he'd be putting up good counting stats, but he just hasn't. He's been very unfortunate so far. I think that's already changing. He's been hitting, I think, 318, 375, 500 so far in May. So I think we will see a vastly different player the rest of the way.
I think the quality of contact bears out that theory a little bit because you've got a 48% hard hit percentage. So 48% of the time it's over 95 miles an hour. His average is 91, but the barrel rate is only 8.2. Now that launch angle is 6.6. That cuts into the barrel rate, but that can be skewed also by, top ground balls or whatever it is, whatever he's doing. That can be skewed low really easily. So I just think there's more in here. And the barrel rate is, it's not a career high because he had the 10.3 in 2020, but the barrel rate is high. It's showing progress. I think everything's showing progress. I think this is going to come around. It's got a 3.1% home to fly ball rate. That's got to come up.
It does. And I think that what I see from a lot of the Northeast and Midwest players is, a little bit less exit velocity, less power in the raw statistics than you would expect this time of year. And as well as anybody, the weather's been pretty miserable up here.
Okay, yes, it has, especially at times. But it's funny, in league-wide, it doesn't feel like the quality of contact numbers show that, but probably because, again, it's basically regional, right?
It is pretty regional. So I think that the teams that are really, there's about 10 or 12 teams up in this extreme part of the country that where, we had a threat of snow the other day. Today, I don't think we're breaking 50 here. So not great.
Well, we get a good day here. We got to send you a good day here.
Yeah, you'll get this tomorrow.
Okay, like I said last week, the only thing better than talking Yankees players with you is ex-Yankees players, Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, so let's start with one of my conclusions. And I hate talking about how guys feel and what their motivations are because I don't know. I haven't talked to the guy. But Gleyber Torres has always struck me as a guy that could coast on talent at times.
Yeah.
Not that I think he's a lazy player at all, but I think he just kind of gets in these funks and he's just like, no, I'll get out of it. I'm not too worried about it. But he signed a 1-year prove-it deal in Detroit this year. So he's going to be a free agent again. And this is, I think he's a proud kid. I still say kid, he's 28 in his 8th major league season. He's just getting into his prime now. And he had a really disappointing year last year in New York. He plays most of the time. He's not a guy that is hitting the IL for any length of time normally, although he already did this year. But only 15 homers in a full season in Yankee Stadium seems pretty low for a guy that has hit 24 or more 4 times in his other full seasons with the Yanks. So it was really just a terribly disappointing year for him.
Yeah.
And like terrible exit velocity, just everything was bad. So this year, exit velocity is back up over 90 for just the second time in his career. The launch angle's up, barrel rate's up. He's hitting a ton of fly balls. And curiously, he has become extremely patient at the plate. 42.5% swing rate. That's the lowest of his career if we throw out the COVID year, which I think that we always should.
Yep.
Chase rate. He's been a pretty patient guy at the plate most of the time. He's a very disciplined hitter. He's taken that to extreme levels this year, 16.8% chase rate. He's never been below 20 before, and that was the COVID year. So he's never been below 22.5 before. So this is a very good thing. The contact rate has jumped all the way up to 85%. His highest before was 80.5%. This is really good news. Now, he's put up 289 batting average at 467 slugging, which is great. Expected StatCast data is 305 and 589. So I expected Gleyber to have a nice bounce back year this year, and I think he's having it, but I think it could even get better.
Well, Detroit in this weather, that's a factor as well. I also think this all adds up to a player changing organizations, and sometimes they want to earn a spot in the dugout here. And you watched what happened in the last 3 years with the Yankees. That was all decline. That just declined from there. And whether it was psychological, his feeling about what his status was in that organization. Obviously, you're dealing with stars. It's a high-intensity market. He changes teams. He goes to another team. He's got to earn his bones in the dugout. And I think that shows up a lot in his profile. Whether it lasts, that's the problem at this point. But you're right. His result stats have underperformed. I think he's actually been better than his result stats, and I think that's cold weather in Detroit.
He's been fabulous so far. He's been really, really good. I've watched him as at bats, and he looks locked in. And, one thing that we need to always remember is that in this day where a lot of players are buying out their RBers, it's not quite as important as it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago. But your average player is going to get one big contract. And it comes for a guy like Gleyber that broke in at age 21. It comes right in your prime, right here. So this is it. This is his chance to make family generationally changing money. So,
and he ran into the organization change, probably seeing different coaching. This is the change in the plate rates is coaching. Someone's getting to him and it has adjusted his approach a little bit.
I have to think that it has.
Yeah, whether it's Detroit or whether it's a third party or whatever's going on, someone's got in his head a little bit. Probably because, listen, kid, you're coming up on your big contract. You got to perform now at this point.
I always liked him as a player. I feel like he was vilified a little bit for not taking a bigger role, but he was always kind of the second tier star in New York. So, I think this is going to be good for him. I'm really rooting for him. I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good player. I think he's really talented, and maybe he hasn't shown that all the time. So I'm excited.
I think what he did in 22 and 23 is fine, especially in New York. He was never going to be a big star in New York, but in Detroit, he's got a chance to be a leader of that offense.
He does, and that would be fine. I think he has a perfectly good chance to be a 2010 guy with a helping batting average, and that's an underrated. Don't sleep on that Detroit offense. They're getting good pretty quickly.
Shea Langoliers, another guy with a big increase in contact percentage here.
Yeah, man, it's kind of amazing what we've seen from Langoliers. I always thought that he was going to be just a really contact struggling big power guy, and maybe he'd sneak his way into the upper end of second catcher status. But what I'm seeing from Langoliers, I know that the power numbers and the batting average haven't quite been what people wanted just yet, but this is really significant improvement. Contact rate's gone from 61 to 69 to 73 to 83 in 4 years. And as you might expect, there have been some approach changes that have helped fuel that, I think. Swing percentage has gone from 54 to 50 to 49 to 48 over those 4 years. Walk rates have gone from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9% over those 4 years. Now, he's only hitting 225 this year, which is 1 point higher than last year. So you think, oh, well, it doesn't even mean anything. StatCast expected data is 272 with a slugging of 483.
Yep.
So basically all of that is batting average. He's really getting shorted by about 50 points, it looks like right now.
208 BABIP on what he's doing this year.
Well, he's a catcher and he runs like a catcher.
Well, yeah, but his career BABIP is 249. You just get back your career level, and that batting average gets the league average, which is all you need from him.
Right, and he's hit the ball more line drives, more ground balls, and fewer fly balls this year. So you would think that he'd have a higher BABIP this year, which is what StatCast is catching in that expected data. So I do feel like he's not going to be a 270 hitter, I don't think, but he could be a 250 hitter. And that's a league average hitter, maybe even a little better.
Yeah.
So if he's a league average guy with 30 homers at the catching position, yeah, sign me up. I think he's a top 10 catcher right now.
He hit 29 homers and just 482 at bats last year.
Yep.
I mean, think about that a little bit, especially out of the catching position. That makes him a separator.
Well, the way Oakland runs things, he's going to sit and not DH a lot of the time. So he isn't going to get many more than those 480 at bats, I don't think. But even so, with his level of power, he's got his max exit velo 114.5. Like, that's pretty good. He has well above average raw power, above average game power. I'm enthused here. Like, I would not mind having him as my number one catcher.
No, he's not a drain on batting average. He's going to hit you high 20s in homers. He's going to drive in 80 runs. I mean, what else are you getting out of the catcher position?
Well, and I'm thinking as we move through the year that ballpark, it should help a lot of the Oakland players moving to Sacramento.
Yeah. Well, it can't hurt, right? I mean, that old ballpark was terrible from a power standpoint.
Oakland was one of the 2 or 3 worst parks in the league easily. Just depends on what year you're looking at. Yeah,
and as they get settled in, as the weather warms up, maybe I think that ballpark's going to play pretty hitter-friendly the rest of the way.
I do too. So if you get in an instance where you're thinking, well, I need to improve my team. I'm really strong at the catching position. I don't mind downgrading from one of those top 5 catchers to somebody like Langoliers. I think he'll be pretty solid the rest of the way. And if you can upgrade elsewhere, like that's a move I would make.
Okay, Michael Harris, how does this all add up? The contact rate has gone through the roof despite a high chase rate, and he's not been a particularly good contact guy in the past, although his contact rate is good. But I mean, he chases out of the zone. His plate rate's not terrific, but he still manages to make good contact.
Yeah, man, I love Michael Harris. I do, and there are a few things that he just hasn't done as far as progressing as a player, and we're kind of willing to write him off. I feel like across the industry, I think people are like, well, we thought this guy was going to be good, but oh well, I guess he's just going to be okay. So Michael Harris just crossed 1,500 career plate appearances. So this is when we would expect to see some kind of jump in performance. He continues to chase way too much. Chase rates over 40%. They are prohibitive to success. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. They are prohibitive to success. You need to be able to recognize balls and strikes better than that. So let's set that aside. That is a major problem. His contact rates have gone 74, 78, 76, 81. So he's making better contact despite swinging at worse pitches this year. he's still, the exit velocity's dropped to average. The max has dropped as well, but it's still well above average. He has very good power, and he's still only 24 years old. This is what I want to drive home, because this kid is a very good player. Still hits 23% line drive rates, should easily have a BABIP with his speed of, I don't know, 300, 320. He's at 243, okay?
Yeah.
So that's not going to last. I will guarantee it. And I don't guarantee anything, unlike Charles Barkley. But what else can we get from him? Well, I mean, it looks like he's going to steal 20 to 25 bases. He certainly has the speed for it. The power should be there. I know that it looks like it's deteriorated a little bit, but let's look at his career. He has a career slugging of 361 in April. He is a notoriously slow starter, and we have 4 years of data for this now, so I think we can say it's a thing. First half, second half splits are massive, and the kicker for all of this is, lest you think that you're going to end up with a situation where Michael Harris gets demoted or something. He's signed through 2030. They bought out his ARB years. They're committed to him, and the talent is very, very obvious. So for me, he is a glaring buy low candidate. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think the talent will win out.
Yeah, and he's been unlucky, especially with that batting average. He's deserved a little bit better batting average already, and it's just going to get better as you go, because, as you said, he's been a notorious slow starter. So play on that 216 and try to grab him at this point.
I think so. I mean, I'd love to see him be more discerning at the plate. Other than that, I just think he needs some better luck and to get the calendar flipped to May, which it has. So I think we're all systems go here.
Imagine if you could get to a 6.6%, 7% walk rate. Just not spectacular, just reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to get in his ear, man. I don't know who is in charge of that team. It feels like nobody.
It feels like, yeah, and it seems so anti-Houston to let a guy go with the 40% chase rate. It's not something you would think that they would put up with.
I don't know, man. Atlanta is.
Oh, Atlanta. I'm sorry.
They are kind of a mess right now. Are they just waiting for Acuna to get back and treading water? And it kind of feels like that to me. Like, well, when we get Acuna and Strider back, we're just all going to play. Until then, try to win a couple games here and there.
Yeah,
I know that's not what's happening, but it's what it feels like to me.
It's kind of, we talk about team malaises all the time, and Atlanta seems to be in one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Toronto last year, where you're just like, somebody has to take charge and say, look, this is what you should be doing as a hitter, not what you're doing.
Yeah, we had so much hope for Don Mattingly being in that Toronto organization and what he was going to do.
Yeah, we did, but those who can't do teach in many respects, and those who can sometimes are not the best teachers.
Huge jump out of nowhere for Ian Happ at 30 years old in contact rate.
Yeah, this is new. I mean, I feel like Ian Happ is always one of those sort of overlooked guys.
Yeah.
Because you always kind of, because of that half year back in 2019, people are always looking for more. Like, he hit 11 homers with a 264 average in 60 games, and you're like, man, he should be a 30 home run guy. And he just kind of is a 25 home run guy with an average batting average, and he steals a couple bases and he walks a lot, and everybody's like, oh, well, he's okay. He's fine. So, exit velocity is about the same. He's hitting more line drives and way fewer ground balls this year, which is always a good thing. Yeah. Always. More line drives, fewer ground balls equals good. There are a few golden rules in this, but that's one of them.
Yes.
Always has good strike zone judgment. The in-zone contact this year is where we're seeing the jump. It's just gone, he was an average of 80% for his whole career. Now he's at 89. So he's just doing a better job of handling the pitches that he should be able to handle. So what is it? Feels like small sample size noise to me, even though it's almost 40 games. But small sample size noise will give you one of those good year batting averages that he has put up before, 271, 264, 258. He's done this before. So when he hits 260 to 275, Ian Happ is a really useful guy. It's just we've only seen 3 homers so far. The homer to fly ball rate is, let's charitably say, unbelievably bad given his history.
Yeah.
It's a third of his career average.
Can we just write it off as a Cub in April?
That is exactly what I am going to write it off as, which is also why I am down on Shota Imanaga, because his peripherals are bad, but the weather's been so bad that he's just not getting hurt by him.
Yeah.
The weather changes in Wrigley, and everyone knows that it might as well play as two different parks when the weather's good and the weather's bad. That's the one park in the country that I would say you should have two park effects for.
Yeah. Seasonal park effects, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Wrigley in June through the end of the year is a different place. I will be there, by the way. I can't wait.
Oh, you're going to Wrigley this year?
Going to Wrigley. I'm hitting 6 parks in July.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to Wrigley, guaranteed rate, Miller, or whatever it's called now, Target, Kaufman, and Busch.
Okay. I need to get to Wrigley. I've never been to Wrigley. I need to get to Wrigley.
You need to get to Wrigley, but you have to do what we're doing. Like I told my wife, you have to take one extra day off. We have to go for a day game to Wrigley. You can't go for a night game. It's not a thing.
Okay, fair enough. I understand it. Not as radical about it as you are, but I understand it.
I have strong opinions.
No, it's fair. It's absolutely fair. He's hitting 274 and he's being shortchanged in batting average according to expected numbers.
I think this is probably as good a batting average as you're going to see out of Hap.
Oh, God,
in fact, I expect it to decline a little bit, but the power numbers will come up to offset it. I like the guy. I think he's a very solid player, useful player. He's got a pretty good floor.
And I also think his approach changes here in April too, as well. So a little bit less fly ball, a little bit more line drive, and a little bit less pull. I just think this is just all a come in April is what we're talking about.
Well, I think it is. Like he's another guy like Harris that is a notoriously slow starter. He's got a career slugging of 360 in April.
All right, let's talk about a Yankee and Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh, do we have to? I think that Paul Goldschmidt's still very much in decline, and I think he's really being protected by the lineup around him here. First things first, he's 37 years old. How much longer will this last? I feel like he's been in decline for, well, at least a couple of years. But a 404 BABIP, that will paper over a lot of sins.
Yeah, and it looks like if you put your thumb over the age, he looks like he's still got some usefulness in him at this point. Quality of contact's okay. Plate rates are fine. His approach is fine. He's not getting beaten.
Yeah, but he's randomly having an 81% contact year. And this is a guy this is his 15th year in the majors, and he's never had an 80% contact rate. Call me crazy, but I don't think it's going to be this year. So,
yeah,
I mean, you can see pitchers throwing him in the zone more. These last 2 seasons, he has the highest zone rates of his career. Pitchers will tell you when your bat is slowing down.
Yep.
So I think that's what we're seeing here. And we've seen, this year, it looks like he is sort of consciously not hitting the ball in the air as much, more line drives. He is pulling the ball a little more, which you also kind of see as guys cheat when they get older, but usually it's not accompanied by an increase in contact rate. So this is a little bit odd, and it's almost a quarter of the season at this point. So it's a big enough sample size where, you can't just look at it askance and say, it'll change.
Yeah, the change in organization, that changes the player's viewpoint as well. But you're right, we're a quarter of the way through, and we've got to see some changes before we start writing it off to just that.
Yeah, but I think maybe he just doesn't have to do as much, and he knows that in this lineup.
I don't know if he can do as much, but that ballpark should help him, should help mitigate some of the decline.
Well, maybe a little. It does much less for right-handed hitters than in the non-Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton category, the human category. It doesn't do a ton for them.
All right, talk to me about Wilyer Abreu, he's the only bright spot in this Red Sox season.
You talk to me about Wilyer Abreu. That's your guy.
You're going to laugh because we're so analytically based, and we've used this word a couple times now, especially when we talk about the Celtics. He's got the dog in him. He really does. He's a dirt dog. That used to be a term around here with the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just in it. It's his plate approach. It's everything. He's just smart, and he's just every at bat matters to him up there. I
thought that, and I was in the minority at the time. I have him in my 20-team experts league where we roster like literally 800 minor leaguers.
Yep.
And I had him, and no one thought he was going to be a starter. And I thought, I think there's a platoon starter here. I think that he can hit right-handed pitching. I don't think he'll hit left-handed pitching. And now I look at him and I say, I think there's an all-star here.
All-star.
Okay, this doesn't matter to us from a fantasy baseball standpoint, but his defense is tremendous. He's a great defender. He's kind of we'll say kind of a husky guy.
Yeah, he's
5'10", 215, but the man can move. He's got a fantastic arm. And I mean, this is a guy like his, I went all Collinsworth. I hate that. Like his plate discipline is improving constantly. His contact rates have gone from 69.5%, which I thought is about where he was going to settle for his career, to 73.8 to 81.6 this year.
Yeah.
I never saw that coming. Like he's been great. And maybe it's just like a really good 6 weeks and he's going to kind of slide back to 270, 360, 520. But the power's legit.
Yep.
I mean, it's absolutely legit. And he hits a ton of fly balls.
His play rate's legit. Yes.
Yes.
And he's doing
maybe
it.
He's not a 400 OBP guy. Maybe he's not a 1,000 ops guy. We'll say that. But is he 900? Like, probably.
And he's doing this in the Northeast April. And it hasn't been great
around.
around
And he's only 26.
Yep.
So this is all outstanding. And I don't, you try to poke holes in it. And I can't. Like, he's just gotten better, faster, and more than I expected he would.
The quality of contact is through the roof. The launch angle is a little high, but that's skewed by a couple things here. So just let that play out a little bit. If he gets around between the 11 and 19 he showed the year before, anywhere in between there with this kind of quality of contact, it's going to be great. Unfortunately, from the all-star standpoint, Crochet and Bregman probably blocked that for him because they're going to be all-stars. Crochet
that doesn't mean he can't be one.
Who?
You can take 3, can't you?
3 Red Sox? I don't know.
Wouldn't they?
Okay, I guess.
I mean, if he's going to be a 290, 35, 10 guy with 85 runs and 100 RBIs, like that's an all-star. I'm sorry.
If he's going to hit 18 homers by the all-star break, yes, he's an all-star.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's stealing bases. He's playing great D. He's on web gems constantly. Like, this dude is way better than people thought he was.
Always with a dirty uniform. Always with a dirty uniform. And that's
you Bostonians, you all love that. Dustin Pedroia lives forever.
Well, yes, we do.
Kevin Youkilis.
We like dirt dogs. Yeah.
I mean, every team's fans love guys like that, but you guys do take it to extremes. I think he's a great Boston player. He's way better than I thought he was.
New Yorkers love him too. Philadelphia players love him. Philadelphia fans love him too. In the Northeast,
it's Northeast stuff, man. We live through winters. We're tough.
Yeah, exactly. He's not out there wearing ski masks.
And that's the Gleyber Torres. Like, I love Gleyber Torres, but I mean, he's always, if the temperature gets below 45, he's got like a snowsuit on out there. It looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
I know that's the boomer thing in me, but boy, I hate to see those ski masks. I just
100%.
Come on, guys.
And he's from the Dominican too. Like he didn't grow up in this weather.
I get it. Yep. I understand, but you're here now, so toughen up.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm assuming earlier when you referenced the guy who might be becoming a superstar before our eyes, it was Pete Crow Armstrong.
No, it is definitely not. So I'm gonna say that I was wrong about Pete Crow Armstrong because I didn't think that he could be a viable major leaguer, and now I do. He's 23 years old. I'm still going to say that I think he is overrated right now.
Oh yeah.
Again, we go back to over a 40% swing rate is bad. Over a 40% chase rate is bad. Over a 50% swing rate, unless pitchers are throwing the ball down the middle to you every time, probably bad. Pete Crow Armstrong has a 60% swing rate. Have you ever seen such a thing? No, because it doesn't exist. So, all right, the whole Cub offense is absolutely on fire. He's brought his swing strike rate down from 16 to 14. Contact rate's gone from 73 to 77. Is it sustainable the way he approaches things at the plate? In my mind, doubtful, but he's only 23, so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt as far as some growth goes. Look, if this kid is going to show average exit velocity, his max exit velocity is still well below average. I don't think he has anywhere near as much power as he has shown.
Right. 9
home runs seems just absurd to me for him, knowing who he is, what he can do. The fact that this guy, is he going to be a 30-50 guy? I mean, I don't know. Like, I would be befuddled. I am a little befuddled as it is.
25-30 is not out of the question, though.
No, it isn't. Which is why I'm willing to say that I was wrong about him. But 54% fly balls, and his BABIP is still kind of even, and so many like his 43% pull rate is a little above average too. I'm just not like, I don't know. I can't believe that he's this good. I can't.
I think you're underselling the power a little bit because it's not bad. It's not great, but 40% hard hit percentage. We like that a little bit higher. Barrel rate's really good. 89.7% exit velocity. That's fine. I mean, it supports this kind of power level. It support in Wrigley. It supports mid-20s and homers, right? Doesn't it?
I mean, could he be a much faster Ian Happ? I suppose. But with these contact rates, even though they're improving, I don't see a helping batting average, particularly when you bring in the chase rate and the swing rate. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. I mean, like he did hit 20 homers in 500 plate appearances in the minors in 2 years ago, but that was a 50% fly ball rate.
Remember when we thought, how can a guy survive in the major leagues with a 60% contact rate or a sub 60% contact rate? How can a guy survive in the major leagues with a 49% chase rate? How can you survive?
Well, I think what you're going to find is that pitchers will adjust. I think they've still been throwing him a lot of pitches because honestly, the Cub offense is pretty good and you got to pick your poison to a point.
Yep.
But if this guy keeps hitting like this, they're going to make him chase more and he's going to hit less well unless he changes back. We'll see if he can do that. I expect a pretty significant slump at some point. I would be selling high personally, although, I mean, you gotta just remember your prior thought bias is it's tough for people to get past. And I'm probably pretty decent at admitting when I've made a mistake with guys, but this one still, I feel like he is an absolute maximization of the skill set that he has right now.
All right, let's test this. If I offered you Pete Crow Armstrong from Michael Harris.
Oh, that's tough because Harris has been so disappointing.
Yeah.
I like Harris's skill set so much more than I like.
We identified him as a buy low, and I agree with it. And we identified Pete Crow Armstrong as a sell high.
I can't because Pete Crow Armstrong is going to give you more steals regardless because he just runs a lot more. That team runs a lot more.
I'm willing to put Pete Crow Armstrong in the sell high category. I'm not as radical as you. I'm not. Well, I don't know how actively you're trying to get rid of him. I'm not actively trying to get rid of him, but I'll listen to offers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, well, I can't even think of a guy that you might.
Well, yeah, I mean, depends on what you need and what your rosters are, but yeah, I mean, I'm willing to consider that his price is never going to be higher.
If I could package PCA and something sort of small for the guy that we're going to talk about in the next part, that is the guy that I mentioned before, in Corbin Carroll, I would do that.
Corbin Carroll?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yes. We're going to get let's do Corbin Carroll right now.
So, all right, now
he's getting a little bit tough to handicap at this point.
You know, when we talked in the open, we talked about guys that, you know, maybe you shouldn't be quite so contact centric. Maybe you should be willing to swing and miss a little bit more. It could absolutely help your game.
Yep.
This was what I had in mind. Okay. So Corbin Carroll, we talked a couple of years ago, like, wow, 25 home runs. I didn't think he had that kind of power. But you look at the max exit velocity, it was 114. Like that's pretty well above average power. And the average was 90, a little bit above average. So all that is good, right? So 55 game power, 60, 65 raw power. Like that, that's a good thing. And that was as a 22-year-old. So we're like, all right, great. And then last year happened. And it's like, well, that was kind of weird. Like the contact rate went up into the low 81.6%. Chase rate went down. He's much more patient, passive. But you know, power dropped a little bit. The batting average dropped a ton. A lot of that was luck. But we're like, all right, well, I mean, maybe he's just going to be a 20, 30 guy, and you know that's fine. He'll score a ton of runs, and he's going to be a good player. This guy now, this is a superstar.
Yep. And
I've watched him a decent amount this year. He has traded some contact for power.
Yeah.
And we talked at the open, like, what's average contact? Well, 75-ish. Well, he's down to 73.5% this year. Chasing a lot more, swing a lot more in the zone, just swinging a lot more. He's gone from a 41% swing rate to almost a 50% swing rate. And yeah, he's sacrificing some contact, but the exit velocity is up 5 miles an hour. He's already hit the hardest ball of his career, almost 116.
Yeah.
hard hit rate 57%. He's got 11 homers already. I would not have thought that Corbin Carroll was going to be a potential 40 home run guy, but the launch angle keeps going up and he's swinging harder every year. Why wouldn't he be a 40? Is he a 40-20 guy now with an average that's going to be close to 300? Maybe.
Okay, there's the question, because you look at quality of contact, he's a 30 home run guy, right? That
clearly now
tells me a 30 home run guy. Are the stolen bases going to stay? Is he changing? Not only is he changing his approach, is he changing his profile as a player? Because only 5 stolen bases so far.
Yeah, he's just not running a lot is the thing. The base running data is still kind of really close to where he's been. But I think he's changing from a 1/2 batting order kind of a guy to a 3.
Yeah.
He's changing into their number 3 hitter. I don't think we will see 30 plus stolen bases anymore. We may not even see more than 20-ish.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
If we're going to all of a sudden see a 120 run, 120 RBI guy with 30 to 40 homers and a solid average, you can take your 15 to 20 stolen bases with you on the way out.
Yes, but he's not a 30-30 guy. I don't think he's going to be a 30-30 guy because I think
he could be.
I think he's setting down the speed game.
Right. I think he could be.
He could be.
I think Aaron Judge could be, but they don't want to be. They don't need to be.
Well, yeah, but Aaron Judge, they want to keep him healthy.
And this is why,
yeah,
if I can get back on my soapbox for one moment, because I haven't done this year yet, and I'm trying to not do it every week. So I hate Roto. This emphasis we put on stolen bases that are so clearly borderline useful in the game. What are we doing? Save?
Come on. In the game of baseball?
Just Roto, the old category style with stolen bases and saves being like 25% of the importance of your entire league is a dumb format. And I think I bore myself to tears whenever I have to play.
Especially now when it's been deflated, so to speak, because it's just so many more stolen bases in the game.
Yep. And here we are sitting here like, well, we're actually pondering when Corbin Carroll has made incredible strides in being a baseball player. We're like, yeah, but he's going to be a little less valuable because he's only stealing half as much. Like, who cares? It's so dumb.
He's going to be. It's funny. It's his whole profile has changed, and he's in that late power breakout model too. He's 1,200 at bats to start the year, 2 years of regular playing time. He's in that age group, and they've asked him. He's assuming the role of that production hitter in the middle of the order. So the power. I'm just surprised at his size how much power he can generate.
He just gets so much velocity. A 115.8. I believe I did look at it. I think that's the 11th. Well, he's 11th in terms of maximum exit velocity this year in the majors. He's 12th in terms of average exit velocity in the majors. Like, this is no longer a guy with above average power. This is a guy with very good power.
Yeah, that flipped the switch for me because I kept looking at the size. And it took me a while to buy into what his power capability was, and then the exit velocity this year. And it's like, okay, he can do it.
He is becoming a superstar.
Yeah,
we're sitting here watching it.
All right, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman, man. Like, I'm watching what he's doing, and I really feel like this is a case, and I'm extrapolating a whole bunch of stuff here to get here, but I think this is a case of a just supremely gifted hitter, one of the best hitters I've ever seen, consciously saying, you know what, I know I'm declining a little bit, so I'm just going to sell out a little bit and make a little less contact to keep the power numbers up, because I think that's what this offense can use from me. They don't need me to be a 330, 25 guy.
Yep.
I love Freddie Freeman as a player. Absolutely love him. And he obviously, as a Yankee fan, which I am more of a baseball fan than a Yankee fan, but he broke my heart last year. Bringing in Nestor Cortes to pitch to him, I would have excommunicated Aaron Boone immediately. Just fire him on the spot. Done. The dumbest decision of any dumb decision you could ever imagine. But, Freddie Freeman, he's lost a lot of contact rate this year. He's down. This is a guy that has been over 80% for 5 years in a row and has never been, 1 year in 2016, was below 75.8. And this year he's at 75.4. So second lowest, obviously, of his career. Nothing else has really changed. he's just swinging and missing more. So, all right, what is happening? Okay, 92.7 average exit velocity, highest of his career.
More
Launch
pull,
angle is 18.2.
more
highest of
power,
his
more
career.
pull, more lift. Yes, he's just
no doubt, man. That is exactly. This is clearly a conscious effort to hit for more power, and he's gotten super lucky so far with a 362 batting average fueled by a 366 BABIP. That will not last. He still could easily hit over 300 just because he's so gifted as a hitter that all he's done is drop down to like above average contact ability. But I think, the days of Freddie Freeman even stealing like 10 bags, I think are pretty much over. He looks like a different guy this year. He's aging kind of quickly from a physical standpoint, like lower body and stuff. But the hitting ability is still very, very much there. And I'm just going to enjoy every little bit of watching I get of Freddie Freeman. I think
he just needs to play a role in that Dodgers offense. He doesn't need to carry that Dodgers offense, and he's assumed that role very nicely. The 22% home run to fly ball rate is a little bit lucky, but I don't care. He can hit home runs with a lower home run to fly ball rate. He doesn't need it.
Oh, man, he hit 38 back 6 years ago. That's still there. He could still hit 35.
Yeah.
And he might this year. But I think more likely he's going to be like a 325, 30 homer, 100/100 guy.
Is that all? Is that all?
That's all. He's one of the best hitters of this generation. And I'm just going to appreciate him every time I get a chance to watch him.
Here's the thing, though. He's doing that, and everything points to that, and it's all great. And you just mentioned it. He looks like he's aging a little bit. The eye test looks like he's aging a little bit.
It's a little bit of a sellout, I think.
Yeah.
It looks to me in the early going. And yes, he's missed 10 games or so. He started late. So, we don't have quite as much data. So maybe when we look at this a week and a half, this will have leveled out, and this opinion will be wrong. But yeah. I feel like he's selling out for a little bit more power this year. And when he hits 30, we can say, okay, I guess I was right.
What do they care? Just be healthy for the postseason, right? That
is definitely the bottom line. Like, could you even fathom them not making the postseason?
No,
I don't think it's possible.
No, even if Freeman did not play another game between now and September, they'd still make the postseason.
They're on starting pitcher number 11 or something, and we're still like, yeah, they're going to win everything.
Yeah, and part of it is they purchased it. Part of it is they're good.
Good, rich and smart is really tough to beat.
Exactly. That summarizes it perfectly. They're rich and
thank God it doesn't happen very often.
Yes, they buy players, but they develop players. They get the most out of their veterans. Rich and smart is
great farm system. I mean, the international buying, obviously, you see, but it's not just at the upper level where it's visible. At the lower level, they get guys that you're like, oh wow, yeah, that was smart. They're just a top to bottom excellent organization, and it sucks that they've got a bajillion-dollar payroll or whatever it is.
We've talked about George Springer a couple times this spring already, but when we looked at the contact rate, which is what we were working on today, that's a precipitous drop to 70% this year.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, can we call this the reincarnation of George Springer? Because I'm loving it. I'm loving what I'm seeing. This looks like the guy from like the late 2019s before he went to Toronto. I know he only has 4 home runs so far, but his exit velocity, he was never a big exit velocity guy. At best, he was very slightly above average in terms of average exit field because he's always hit a ton of pop-ups. So this year, he's at 92.5. That's up 5 miles an hour from last year and up 2.5 over anything he's ever put up in his career. And he's hitting the ball. He's hitting 16% pop-ups and still getting that. So you tell me how hard he's hitting the ball the rest of the time.
Yeah, can you imagine?
I love what I'm seeing from Springer this year. The ground ball rate, and I keep coming back to this. Like, if you have any power at all as a hitter, if you're not like a 20 or 30 on the scouting scale, if you have a ground ball rate of 50%, you need to change what you're doing.
Yep.
His ground ball rate is down 20% this year, spread evenly between line drives going up 10% to a career high, and fly balls going up 10% to the second highest ever that he's had. His homer to fly ball rate is very low this year. I think that will improve as we move through the season. And, his contact rate has dropped down to 70, which is back where he was in his first 2 years in the league, where I wondered if he'd be able to make enough contact to be a viable major leaguer. So this is all predicated on him just swinging harder because his chase rate's down to 18%. Like, it's not that he's swinging at bad balls. He is just trying to yank everything that he can. And I'm here for it. I think George Springer is a valuable player once again.
Last year looked so weird because he hit 19 homers and 545 at bats with a 50% ground ball rate, a 51% ground ball rate, and an 87% average exit velocity, 37% hard hit rate. How do you hit 19 home runs with those numbers?
By playing a lot, I guess. I mean, he had a 9% barrel rate, so when he hits it, ball go far. But when you look at, I mean, one critical thing here is like he's definitely aging. You look at the max exit velos, and the last 2 years have been pretty significantly lower than everything in his career before that. So is this like the last hurrah? Can we milk a year or two out of the 35-year-old guy? I think we probably can. I think that a lot of this is a conscious effort that he's still going to be able to, the 304 batting average. No, that's not going to be a thing.
No,
but I think he could hit kind of like he did in 2021 to 23, around 260. And he can give you 20 to 25 homers and 20 steals like he was 2 years ago. It just looks better.
And if this works through all walks of life in baseball. If you're a Bill James, if you believe the Bill James axiom that I do, that once a player demonstrates a skill, he owns it, right? He's demonstrating a skill right now. Even though he's 35 years old, he's demonstrating a skill, and he owns it, at least for this year.
Yeah, no, I think so. And that lineup, frankly, needs it. I don't know what's up with Toronto. Like the sum of the parts never seems to equal the parts. They're 27th in runs scored. There is more talent on that team than that. Bo Bichette is a shell of his former self. Springer is this year.
Maybe he's the only one listening to Mattingly.
Oh, if only.
Because we had so much high hopes for Don Mattingly turning that team around a little bit.
I mean, it's my favorite. My dog is named Mattingly. Like, come on. I love the guy.
Which Thomas are we looking at here?
Well, we don't have to do Lane Thomas. He's been out for a few weeks. But the one thing I'll say about Lane Thomas is he's been immensely disappointing since leaving Washington and going to Cleveland. And at a certain point, like you have to wonder, maybe just the fit there is poor. Like you need to take a look at the splits from last year. Like Lane Thomas was an underrated good player in Washington.
Yeah.
Like maybe not as far as a baseball player goes, like he was just kind of okay. But as a fantasy player, he was pretty underrated. But he had 28 steals in Washington. And the last 2 months of the year in Cleveland, he had 4. He's just not running. He's not hitting. He's not doing anything. And he's been hurt now for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's sort of inexplicable to me that a player could be quite decent and fantasy valuable in one place and then go to ostensibly a better offense and be a giant steaming pile. But this is what's happened. And I am probably, when he comes back, I'll give him a week or two, but I'm likely cutting him everywhere. Because there's no evidence that he's going to run in Cleveland. And without that, he probably doesn't have value.
I think that's all you need is a week or two because he's changed teams before, so he's familiar with that situation. And sometimes you get into a different philosophy, a different approach when he moves from Washington to Cleveland and he needs some time to adjust to it. Or maybe they need time to adjust to him. It's like what we want him to do isn't working with him. Just let him be who he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on base. He's only been on base 8 times. Well, 9 if you count the hit by pitch. And he ran once. So, okay, I mean, that explains why he wasn't running at all. But last year, he only ran like 5 times in the last 2 months of the season. Like that's Lane Thomas is I run all the time guy.
Yeah, you can't mess with this because he's essentially a 30-20 guy in 2023. He was on a pace to be a high 20s, 30 guy in 2024. Might have been a 30-30 guy. How can you let him not run? Let him run. Well,
and his swing rate since going to Cleveland increased tremendously, like over 5%. That's a lot.
Yep.
It doesn't look like the same guy.
Chase rate too, and walk rate just tanked. Absolutely tanked.
Yeah,
a guy who can steal 30 bases, you want him to take walks, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just super disappointing because I kind of like him as a player, and he's only 29. It's not like he's 35, and you're like, okay, well, this is the end.
All right. That's it for us today. You can get back to what you're doing today and help your fantasy baseball teams by going over to insiderbaseball.com. Check us out there. Lots of free stuff on the baseball blog. Check that out. But lots of great stuff to help you win championships on a subscription model. So please take a look at that as well. Sky, we'll talk to you next time.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Yo!